Napoleon Hill breaks it down. Wealth is not a goal, it's a frequency. If money is just paper, why do some people attract it like a magnet, while others chase it for decades and still come up empty? Napoleon Hill didn't just write about success, he decoded the frequency of wealth itself. This isn't just motivation, this is transformation. Let me show you how to align your energy and finally attract the wealth you were born to receive. Part 1. Money is energy rewiring your belief system. Napoleon Hill's work laid the foundation for an entirely new way of thinking about wealth, one that transcends simple economics and dives into the energetic and psychological dimensions of success. In Hill's worldview, money isn't just a medium of exchange, it's energy. It responds to belief, intention, emotion, and consciousness. If you've struggled to attract or hold on to wealth, chances are the issue isn't in your hustle, it's in your internal wiring. Hill was adamant before wealth manifests in the outer world. It must first be created in the mind. That creation is deeply energetic. It's shaped by belief systems, emotional frequencies, and the dominant thoughts we feed ourselves daily. 1. The energetic nature of money. Hill never used the phrase money is energy in those exact words, but it's the clear implication of his message. He viewed thought as a form of vibrational force. He taught that thoughts, especially those mixed with emotion, have a magnetic quality. They attract similar energies from the universe. If thought is energy, and if emotion is energy, then wealth, being the physical result of sustained thought and emotion, must also be energy in materialized form. From this lens, money is never just paper. It's a reflection of the energy you emit. Every time you say, "I'll never be rich," you send out a frequency. Every time you feel anxious when paying a bill, you transmit scarcity. The energetic field you're operating from becomes your reality. Hill understood that before you can attract money, you must match its energetic frequency through belief, intention, and focused mental effort. 2. Mental programming, your financial blueprint. Most people operate on unconscious programming handed to them in childhood. Whether you were told money is evil or that rich people are greedy, those impressions form your financial blueprint, your default wiring when it comes to money. Hill's philosophy revolves around conscious reprogramming. If your current results are not what you desire, then you must trace back to the beliefs that created them. Ask yourself, do I believe I deserve wealth? Do I feel guilty about wanting to be rich? Do I secretly resent wealthy people? Every one of these beliefs generates a vibrational charge. You can't hide it. You attract what you are, not what you pretend to be. If your internal system is wired for guilt, unworthiness, or fear around money, then no matter how hard you work, you'll keep self-sabotaging or unconsciously repelling wealth. Hill wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, but belief isn't surface level. It's deep-rooted identity. You must become the person who naturally attracts money before the money shows up." 3. Breaking poverty consciousness. Poverty needs no plan. It needs no one to aid it, because it is bold and ruthless. Hill said, "Riches are shy and timid. They must be attracted." This quote is more than poetic. It's vibrational truth. Poverty consciousness is the energetic default of the masses. It's the belief in lack, competition, limitation, and survival. It's the internal agreement that says, there's not enough to go around. Hill warned that this mindset is like an energetic parasite. It infects your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, and eventually your bank account. To shift out of poverty consciousness, stop focusing on what you lack. Stop affirming limitation through your words. Stop surrounding yourself with scarcity-driven people. Abundance begins with attention. What you focus on expands. Hill taught that your dominating thoughts become your reality. If your dominant thought is, "I never have enough," then your energetic field is calibrated to not enough, and that becomes your truth. It takes conscious, disciplined mental effort to begin thinking in terms of abundance, especially if you've lived your whole life in survival mode. But the good news is beliefs can change, frequencies can rise, and when they do, money begins to flow in unexpected ways. 4. Emotional vibration and wealth attraction. Hill was ahead of his time in understanding emotional vibration. Though he didn't use the language of modern quantum physics, his insights align with it. He emphasized the power of emotion in achieving success. In Think and Grow Rich, he wrote, "Plain, unemotional words do not influence the subconscious mind. You will get no appreciable results until you learn to reach your subconscious mind with emotion and belief. Emotion is the amplifier of thought, and emotion carries frequency." What emotions do you most associate with money? Fear, shame, resentment. If so, you're operating at a low vibration. That energy repels wealth. Hill taught us to mix desire with faith, and faith with positive emotion, gratitude, certainty, generosity, joy. These are high frequencies. When you think of money with joy and ease, you become a match to it. One powerful practice Hill encouraged was auto-suggestion, repeating affirmations infused with belief and emotion. When you speak with emotion, your subconscious mind receives the message, and since your subconscious is the link between your thoughts and the universal mind, that's how wealth begins to manifest. Free environment and energetic contagion. Another key factor Hill discussed was environment, not just physical, but energetic. He understood that people carry vibrations, and the people you spend the most time with either raise or lower your wealth frequency. Are you around complainers? People who mock ambition? People who fear success or sabotage their own progress? Hill warned against keeping company with those who are infected with fear, doubt, and negativity. Their energetic fields interfere with yours. You pick up their frequencies, and without realizing it, your belief in your own potential weakens. The solution: curate your environment intentionally. Read wealth-conscious books. Watch empowering content. Surround yourself with people who see opportunity, not danger, who believe wealth is available and infinite. Just being in their presence shifts your energetic signature. 6. The wealth frequency equation. To simplify Hill's perspective into an actionable formula: thoughts, imagination, belief, emotion, faith, desire, action, persistence, planning, each earn wealth vibration. This equation isn't linear, it's synergistic. When all elements align, you become energetically magnetic. Wealth begins to show up first as ideas, then opportunities, then physical money. But if even one element is off, say, you have thoughts of abundance but emotions of fear, you create energetic dissonance. The universe reads mixed signals. Nothing sticks. You must integrate all levels of self. Mental, think like a wealthy person. Emotional, feel like a wealthy person. Physical, act like a wealthy person. Spiritual, trust like a wealthy person. When you do, you don't chase money, it gravitates toward you, pulled by the consistency of your energetic field. 7. The subconscious wealth filter. One of Hill's most powerful insights is that your subconscious mind is the gatekeeper. You can read every book on wealth, but unless your subconscious accepts the idea of being rich, you'll find ways to block it. The subconscious is programmed through repetition, emotion, environment, identity. That's why one-time affirmations don't work. You must recondition your inner filter daily. You must show your subconscious, "This is who I am now." Hill recommended writing out a clear, specific financial goal and reading it twice daily, morning and night, with emotion. The reason? You're literally installing a new frequency into your subconscious mind, which will then influence your thoughts, actions, and attraction power throughout the day. 8. Identity shift, becoming the person who attracts wealth. Hill wasn't just about thinking positively. He was about transformation. You don't attract wealth simply by wanting it. You attract it by becoming a person to whom wealth naturally flows. That means walking with confidence, thinking long-term, operating with clarity, Holding high standards. Speaking with authority. You stop identifying as someone who's trying and start becoming someone who simply is. This is a massive energetic upgrade. It shifts your self-concept, and the world around you begins to respond in kind. This inner shift is often uncomfortable. People may criticize your change. Old friends may drift away. That's okay. Hill wrote, "No one can succeed without stepping away from the crowd and thinking independently." 9. The invisible laws behind money. Although Hill was practical in his methods, he deeply respected invisible laws such as the law of attraction, the law of vibration, and the law of cause and effect. He saw the universe as responsive. Your outer world is a mirror of your inner world. And money isn't a reward for hard work, it's a response to alignment. If your thoughts are clear, your emotions are high, your beliefs are empowering, and your actions are consistent, you cannot help but attract abundance. Money follows energy. It's not about deserving or wishing, it's about resonating. 10. Rewire daily or repeat the past. The truth is, if you don't actively rewire your beliefs, your old programming will run your life by default. And the default setting of society is scarcity, fear, and conformity. Hill knew this. That's why he insisted on daily disciplines, affirmations, reading, visualization, reflection. Changing your beliefs about money isn't a one-time insight, it's a lifestyle. It requires constant awareness, because every day, the world tries to drag you back into average thinking. But if you commit to mental mastery, emotional clarity, and energetic elevation, you rise. And when you rise, money flows, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped resisting it. Part 2. Desire, the starting point of all wealth. Napoleon Hill declared boldly in Think and Grow Rich, "The starting point of all achievement is desire, not hope, not wish, but a keen, pulsating desire which transcends everything." Desire in Hill's system is not an abstract wish or fleeting interest. It's a burning obsession, a mental and emotional force that becomes the internal engine for all manifestation. Hill believed that every fortune, every empire, every innovation, and every legacy begins in the inner fire of desire. Without it, no amount of intelligence, talent, or strategy will amount to anything. This part of Hill's framework is critical because it explains why some people with less education or resources succeed, while others, far more equipped, drift aimlessly. The difference is not external, it's intensity of desire. 1. The physics of burning desire. Hill's model frames desire as a creative energy, an initiating frequency that sets the law of attraction into motion. In physics terms, it's the voltage behind intention. Without emotional voltage, a goal is just a fantasy. Desire is what transforms mental imagery into consistent behavior. It overrides fear, it silences doubt, it stretches the imagination beyond current limits. You don't need to know how something will happen if your desire is strong enough. Hill believed that desire, when crystallized into a definite purpose and fueled by faith, triggers a chain of reactions in both your subconscious and the outside world. 2. Definite desire versus passive wishing. Most people don't have true desire. They have passive wishes. I'd love to be wealthy one day. It would be nice to quit my job. Maybe someday I'll start that business. But passive wishing carries no emotional magnetism. It's vague, non-committal, and energetically weak. Hill insisted that desire must be definite and demanding, so clear. It borders on obsession. He outlined 6 practical steps for turning desire into riches. 1. Fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. 2. Determine exactly what you intend to give in return. 3. Establish a definite date. 4. Create a clear plan and begin at once. 5. Write out a concise statement of the above. So read it aloud twice daily, with emotion and faith. This was not spiritual fluff. It was a deliberate act of energetic reprogramming. Hill wanted your desire to become your identity. He believed your subconscious mind would accept a new financial reality only after being emotionally bombarded with clarity and conviction. 3. Emotionalizing the goal. Hill emphasized that emotion is the fuel of desire. Without it, your subconscious will not be impressed. You must feel your goal to make it magnetic. In practice, this means reading your goal statement out loud with passion, visualizing your success with intensity, rehearsing victory in your mind until it feels realer than your current reality. Emotion activates the subconscious mind. That's where the magic happens. When the subconscious mind believes something is true, it works relentlessly to make it real through ideas, urges, connections, and persistence. Desire must move you. It must become emotionally charged repetition until it burns away doubt and becomes an unshakable truth. 4. The energy of sacrifice. Every desire carries a price. Hill made it clear you must determine what you're willing to give up in order to get what you want. Nothing comes from nothing. Energy must be exchanged. Time, comfort, relationships, leisure, certainty. You don't get to keep your old life and manifest a new one. Your new wealth requires new behavior. Hill emphasized that desire becomes effective only when it drives you to sacrifice what no longer serves you. This mindset is unpopular, especially in the age of instant gratification. But real desire is not lazy. It demands action, trade-offs, and commitment. And in return, it brings transformation. 5. Desire is a shield against fear. Fear is the #1 killer of dreams, it whispers. What if I fail? What will people think? What if I lose everything? Hill taught that the only antidote to fear is burning desire. Why? Because when you want something badly enough, your focus shifts. You no longer dwell on failure. You dwell on outcomes. Fear becomes irrelevant. Desire gives you tunnel vision. It blinds you to obstacles. That's not naivety, it's power. Most people are paralyzed by uncertainty. But when desire is strong enough, the mind starts scanning for solutions instead of problems. This is not positive thinking. It's energetic dominance. Desire pushes fear out of the system and replaces it with focused will. 6. Transmutation of emotion into wealth. One of Hill's most revolutionary ideas was emotional transmutation. He believed powerful human emotions, especially sexual energy, could be converted into creative drive and then directed toward wealth creation. In Think and Grow Rich, Hill wrote a full chapter on the transmutation of sex energy. He argued that when the emotional energy behind desire is properly channeled, it awakens the brain, sharpens intuition, increases persistence, and opens the door to genius. In other words, the stronger your emotional drive, the more creative power you possess. The key is discipline harnessing that energy, not squandering it. This is why Hill considered desire the ultimate force. It wakes up the dormant faculties of your being and amplifies your energetic presence in the world. 7. Turning desire into identity. True desire doesn't just sit in your journal, it becomes who you are. Your choices, words, and actions begin to align with your vision. When you really desire wealth, you don't waste time on meaningless distractions. Stay stuck in old habits. Hang around people who don't believe in you. Desire makes you become the person who can achieve the goal. You shift from saying, I want to be rich, to I'm building wealth now. That inner identity shift is energetic gold. It turns you into a magnet for aligned resources and relationships. Hill's vision of success required more than technique. It required personal transformation. Desire is the first spark of that transformation. It forces you to act like the future version of yourself today. 8. The universe responds to clarity. Hill suggested that the universe, or what he called infinite intelligence, responds to definiteness of purpose. In energetic terms, clarity equals power. The more specific and emotionally vivid your desire, the faster the universe can respond. Vague goals, vague results, specific goals, specific opportunities. Your job is not to micromanage how your wealth will come. Your job is to declare it with conviction, then stay alert for signs, ideas, and aligned action steps. Hill warned that many people fail not because they aimed too high, but because they never aimed at all. They drifted, they waited, they hoped, but they never locked in a target and burned it into their subconscious. Desire, when definite, creates momentum. The universe moves in your favor because you finally stop sending mixed signals. 9. Obstacles are tests of desire's strength. Hill believed that temporary defeat was part of the process. It's not punishment, it's a test. How badly do you really want this? Many quit after the first rejection or failure. Why? Because their desire wasn't burning, it was lukewarm. True desire doesn't quit at the first obstacle. It adapts, it recalibrates, it climbs through windows when the doors close. Hill famously told the story of R.U. Darby, who stopped digging for gold 3 feet from the richest vein in Colorado history. Someone else took over his abandoned efforts and struck gold almost immediately. The moral one is to win service of one. Weak desire quits. Strong desire persists until it wins. 10. Daily practice of desire amplification. Desire must be fed. It is not self-sustaining, Hill encouraged. Reading your goal statement morning and night. Visualizing success in vivid detail. Surrounding yourself with images of wealth. Associating with ambitious people. This daily discipline keeps desire hot. It keeps your vibration high. It keeps you out of drift and in command. You don't get what you want. You get what you demand internally, repeatedly, and energetically. Part 3, faith believing before seeing. If desire is the spark that ignites action, then faith is the sustaining force that makes achievement inevitable. In Napoleon Hill's framework, faith is not a religious concept, it's an internal certainty. It's the unwavering belief that what you desire will manifest, even before there's any physical evidence. In fact, it is your belief, not the external result, that creates the condition for success. Hill wrote, faith is the eternal elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. In other words, for him, faith is energy in motion. It animates thought with conviction. Without it, your desire is weak. With it, your desire becomes a magnetic force that bends reality in your favor. 1. Faith as the emotionalized expectation of success. Faith is not a passive feeling. It's active expectation, a belief so strong that it commands your body, your thoughts, and your behavior into alignment. Hill believed that faith is what gives desire its power to attract wealth. You can have a clear goal and burning desire, but if your inner belief contradicts your goal, you will block its arrival. Faith is the emotional glue that binds your vision to reality. Without faith, your actions become hesitant. Your affirmations feel empty. Your energy emits doubt, which repels what you want. With faith, you speak with conviction. You act boldly and consistently. You attract people, ideas, and events that match your confidence. 2. Autosuggestion as the engine of faith. Hill was clear that faith is not something you're born with, it's something you install. The tool he emphasized for this installation was autosuggestion, the practice of feeding your subconscious mind with repeated affirmations, visualizations, and emotionally charged thoughts. Your subconscious does not distinguish between real and imagined experience. It accepts what you consistently tell it, especially when what you tell it is filled with emotion. This is why Hill insisted, read your written statement of desire aloud. Do it twice a day, every day. Do it with emotion, as if your wealth already exists. You are programming your belief system, replacing doubt with certainty, lack with abundance, and fear with focus. Autosuggestion is not magic. It's mental training. Just as your body responds to repetition in the gym, your mind responds to repeated emotionalized suggestion. Over time, this creates a new default vibration, and wealth responds to that vibration. 3. Faith is an inner knowing, not outer evidence. The world trains us to believe what we see. Hill turned that logic upside down. His principle was, you must believe first, then see. Faith is not based on evidence. It's what you hold on to before the evidence appears. It's the inner alignment that causes the outer result. The average person waits for proof before they commit emotionally, but the person who succeeds commits first. That commitment is the signal to the universe that you're ready. Faith is the courage to declare, "This is who I am," before you've achieved it. "This is what I deserve," before anyone else agrees. "This is what's coming," even while things look like they're falling apart. Hill understood that reality is slow to respond to your new thoughts. But if your belief holds steady, the outer world must eventually match your dominant vibration. 4. Fear and faith cannot occupy the same space. One of Hill's most powerful insights is that faith and fear are opposites. They cannot coexist in the same mind at the same time. One always pushes the other out. When you are ruled by fear, you hesitate, overanalyze, and sabotage. When you operate from faith, you take risks, trust intuition, and act with certainty. Your task is not to eliminate all fear forever. It's to feed your faith until it becomes stronger than your fear. That means watching your words carefully, protecting your emotional energy, feeding your mind daily with empowering information. Hill encouraged mental discipline. Just as you wouldn't let garbage accumulate in your kitchen, you must not allow negative, fearful thoughts to accumulate in your mind. Faith is a muscle. It grows through repetition. Every time you act in spite of fear, you grow stronger. Every time you declare success, even when it's not yet visible, you raise your vibration. Eventually, fear has no room left to breathe. 5. Faith and wealth consciousness. Faith is a foundational component of wealth consciousness. It's the inner knowing that wealth is not evil. Abundance is your natural state. The universe is not limited in resources. You are worthy of receiving all you desire. Most people live with scarcity consciousness. They believe money is hard to earn, limited, or reserved for a lucky few. These beliefs destroy faith and attract lack. Hill insisted that the first step to wealth is building a mindset where abundance feels normal. You must develop the faith that money flows easily. Money wants to come to you. You are connected to infinite sources of opportunity. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about deliberately choosing thoughts that elevate your energetic frequency. Because wealth always flows to those with strong, elevated beliefs. 6. How to build faith step by step. Hill was practical. He didn't just talk about faith, he gave a blueprint for building it. The key lies in consistent mental practice. Here's a daily faith-building routine inspired by Hill. 1. Affirm your goal with emotion every morning. Speak it out loud. Say it as if it's already done. 2. Visualize your life as if you already achieved it. Feel the emotions. Imagine details. Let it excite you. 3. Reject all thoughts of doubt or limitation. Don't entertain what if it doesn't happen. Instead, ask how amazing will it be when it does. 4. Read books. Watch content and follow people who support your belief. Protect your energy. Avoid environments that diminish your faith. 5. Take small aligned actions daily. Faith grows stronger when it's followed by movement. Action validates belief. This process doesn't take hours, but done every day, it rewires your subconscious into a powerful transmitter of certainty and abundance. 7. Faith in yourself versus faith in circumstances. Many people misplace their faith. They wait for the economy to improve. They wait for someone to help them. They wait for perfect timing. Hill taught that true faith is not external, it's internal. You must develop faith in your ability to learn, your power to persist, your vision to create something valuable, your resilience to handle failure and still rise. External circumstances change constantly. If your belief depends on them, your confidence will always be unstable. But when faith is internalized, when it's rooted in your own identity, you become unshakable. That unshakable energy is incredibly attractive to wealth. It draws people, deals, and opportunities into your orbit. 8. Faith magnetizes the mastermind. Another aspect Hill explored was the role of faith in group alignment, specifically in the mastermind principle. When two or more people come together in harmony, they create a third mind, a shared energetic field more powerful than either individual alone. But that energy only becomes magnetic when each member operates from faith. Doubt, fear, or negativity from one member pollutes the group vibration. Hill emphasized surrounding yourself with people who believe in themselves, believe in you, believe in possibility. Faith is contagious. When you feel it from others, your own belief expands. When you bring it to others, you elevate them. This upward spiral becomes the foundation for exponential success. 9. Faith in the sixth sense. Hill described faith as a gateway to a higher faculty, what he called the sixth sense. It's the intuitive ability to receive ideas, guidance, and inner nudges from infinite intelligence. Faith activates this higher connection. When you believe, you become receptive. You begin noticing patterns. You start hearing the whispers of intuition. You feel pulled toward action that doesn't always make logical sense, but always proves right. Without faith, you're disconnected from this intuitive guidance. But with it, you operate with inspired insight, making decisions that leapfrog obstacles and lead to quantum results. 10. The identity of faith. Ultimately, Hill's concept of faith leads to an identity shift. You stop being someone who hopes to succeed and start being someone who knows success is inevitable. This shift transforms how you speak, think, plan for assurance, show up. You become less reactive and more intentional, less needy, more magnetic, less doubtful, more powerful. Faith becomes who you are, not something you try on once in a while. And when you live as if success is guaranteed, the universe has no choice but to deliver on that reality. Part 4, Autosuggestion Programming the Mind for Wealth. You don't just speak success into existence. You train your mind to accept it as reality. There is a quiet revolution that happens in a person's life the moment they realize that their reality isn't just shaped by effort or strategy, but by the words they whisper to themselves in the silence of their own mind. Napoleon Hill, in his timeless work, Think and Grow Rich, taught the world that success, wealth, and fulfillment don't begin with the actions you take in the external world. They begin with the dominant messages you feed your subconscious mind over and over again until your inner reality becomes incapable of accepting anything less than prosperity. Hill called this process autosuggestion, and while it sounds like a soft, almost mystical technique, it is in fact one of the most powerful and scientifically consistent tools ever discovered in the realm of personal development. Autosuggestion is the method by which you rewire your internal blueprint, shifting the patterns of belief, identity, and expectation that shape every decision you make. If you desire to become wealthy, you must first become someone who can believe in wealth. And belief is not a passive experience. It is constructed, piece by piece, by what you allow yourself to hear, say, see, and feel, especially when no one else is around. The power of autosuggestion lies in its ability to bypass the conscious mind, the part of you that analyzes, doubts, and delays, and instead speak directly to the subconscious, where your true self-image lives. This self-image governs everything what you attempt, what you settle for, how you respond to setbacks, and even what level of success you unconsciously allow yourself to maintain. And the subconscious does not respond to logic. It responds to repetition, emotion, and intensity. It responds to what feels true, regardless of whether it is factually accurate. That's why someone can believe they're a failure despite having evidence of progress. That's why someone can remain poor despite working hard. The subconscious doesn't care about effort. It only acts on belief. Autosuggestion, then, is the daily practice of inserting new beliefs into the soil of the subconscious, watering them with conviction, repetition, and emotion until they grow stronger than the weeds of doubt and limitation. When practiced properly, it becomes the central method of self-transformation, not by force, but by influence. You don't fight your old self, you simply override it. Hill didn't see autosuggestion as wishful thinking or fluffy affirmation. He gave it a disciplined, strategic role in the creation of success. He taught that you must craft a definite statement of your financial goal, declare the exact amount of money you desire, establish the date by which it will arrive, identify what you will give in return, and then read that statement aloud twice daily, once upon waking and once before sleeping. This routine is not symbolic. It's psychological conditioning. When done with emotion, the repeated suggestion sinks into the subconscious and begins to reconfigure your identity. And identity is destiny. The challenge, however, is that most people misunderstand how autosuggestion works. They speak their goals without belief, repeat words without emotion, and then give up after a few days of no visible change. But transformation doesn't come from a few dry repetitions. It comes from deep emotional conviction, practiced consistently over time. You must see yourself wealthy. You must feel the emotions of financial freedom. You must speak with the tonality and energy of someone who already knows the outcome. Your goal is to simulate the reality of success so vividly and frequently that your subconscious accepts it as your new standard, and your body, behavior, and decision-making fall into alignment with that standard. This is not theory. It is the same process by which every belief you currently hold was installed. Whether good or bad, empowering or limiting, everything you believe today was programmed into you through repeated exposure. The child who constantly hears "we can't afford that" grows into the adult who fears money. The student who is told "you're not smart enough" adopts a ceiling on their ambition. And the employee who silently tells themselves "I'm not leadership material" guarantees they never are. In contrast, those who break free from average and achieve greatness are those who reconditioned their inner voice. They learned to speak a new reality into their mind until their life had no choice but to follow. Hill emphasized the importance of emotional reinforcement. If the subconscious is to accept a new belief, it must be felt, not just spoken. That's why he encouraged visualization alongside verbal affirmation. When you speak your goal aloud, you should close your eyes and see it unfolding. See the money in your account, the contract signed, the business thriving, the life you're building. Feel the weight lifted off your chest. Taste the freedom. Hear the sound of your future. The richer the sensory experience, the deeper the impression left on the subconscious. But autosuggestion is not just about personal speech. It's also about your environment. Everything you consume becomes a form of suggestion. The conversations you engage in, the shows you watch, the music you listen to, the people you surround yourself with. If those inputs are negative, cynical, or rooted in lack, they will override your positive affirmations. You cannot affirm abundance in the morning and then bathe in scarcity all day. The subconscious cannot hold contradictory vibrations for long. It will default to the strongest and most consistent signal. So choose your surroundings carefully. Curate your inputs. Guard your mind as if it were the vault to your financial future, because it is. Hill also warned against passive affirmation. Reading your goal like a robot will yield nothing. You must put yourself into a state of belief. That means standing tall, using powerful body language, breathing deeply, and speaking with emotional conviction. The body reinforces the mind. When you physically act like the person you want to become, your subconscious speeds up the process of making it true. Some days you won't believe it. That's okay. Say it anyway. You're not affirming your current reality, you're affirming your new identity, and identity, when consistently reinforced, always wins. You become what you habitually expect. You expect what you habitually affirm. The longer you persist in this practice, the more automatic it becomes. You begin to think differently. Without trying, you see opportunities where others see risks. You make decisions that align with abundance, not fear. People notice a change in your energy, your confidence, your tone, your presence. They respond to you differently because you're no longer asking the world for permission. You've already declared to yourself who you are. That is the unseen power of autosuggestion. It doesn't just change your thoughts, it changes your frequency, and everything you attract into your life, money, relationships, opportunities matches your frequency. Eventually, a shift happens so deep that you stop needing to say the affirmations consciously. They begin speaking themselves, echoing in your mind throughout the day. That's when you know the programming is complete. Your subconscious has accepted the new identity, and it begins operating as if it were always true. Hill gave us this method not as a motivational gimmick, but as a core tool for mastery. You do not need to manipulate the outer world when your inner world is aligned. When your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and identity vibrate in harmony with wealth, the rest unfolds almost automatically. Autosuggestion is not magic. It is mental architecture. You are designing a new structure of self, brick by brick, word by word, until you live inside a reality that once existed only in your imagination. And that, according to Napoleon Hill, is where all wealth truly begins. Part 5, Specialized Knowledge Wealth Through Focused Intelligence. In Napoleon Hill's philosophy of success, there is a powerful distinction that separates those who casually want to succeed from those who actually build wealth, the difference between general knowledge and specialized knowledge. While general knowledge is everywhere free, scattered, shallow specialized knowledge is focused, applied, and directly tied to results. It is not how much you know, Hill insisted, but how effectively you use what you know in a definite direction with a definite purpose. Hill wrote, "Never first knowledge will not attract money unless it is organized and intelligently directed through practical plans of action to the definite end of accumulation of money." This is where most people fail without realizing it. They mistake the accumulation of information for power. They read books, attend seminars, and consume content endlessly but do nothing with it. Their minds are full, but their lives are empty. They confuse learning with creating. Hill saw this coming nearly a century ago. He warned that schools teach people to memorize facts, but not how to think creatively, organize knowledge into plans, or apply it in a way that produces value in the marketplace. Real wealth, he argued, comes from knowing what specific knowledge is required to fulfill your purpose, and then acquiring that knowledge through whatever means necessary: education, experience, mentors, partnerships, trial and error. It's not about having all the answers. It's about knowing what to pursue and building a mind sharp enough to extract value from it. In practice, this means you don't need to be a genius to get rich, but you do need to be clear. Clear about what field you want to master, clear about what market you serve, clear about what skills move the needle, and clear about where you are lacking so you can fill those gaps with targeted information or collaboration. Specialized knowledge is not a static possession. It evolves. You build it over time through deliberate immersion. For example, if your goal is to build a successful digital marketing agency, you don't need a PhD, but you do need deep knowledge about paid ads, client acquisition, copywriting, analytics, and conversion strategies. You don't need to know everything, but you must know something deeply enough to get results. Hill emphasized that the marketplace does not reward those who know the most. It rewards those who solve problems. Specialized knowledge is about becoming a problem solver in a specific niche. That niche could be business, health, relationships, leadership, investing, anything where value can be created. And where value is created, money follows. But here's the mistake most people make. They assume that if they don't already have specialized knowledge, they're doomed. They assume it takes years to acquire. Hill dismantled that belief. He showed that knowledge can be borrowed, partnered, outsourced, or absorbed quickly when the desire is strong enough. If you don't have the knowledge you need, someone else does, and you can find them. You can study under them. You can hire them. You can collaborate with them. Hill called this intelligent cooperation, and it was one of the most underrated secrets in his philosophy. Success, he said, is rarely a solo effort. It is the product of minds working together toward a common purpose, each contributing their area of expertise. This is why he also promoted the idea of the mastermind, a harmonious alliance of individuals with specialized knowledge working together to multiply each other's capacity. If you are lacking expertise in a critical area, your goal isn't to fake it, it's to assemble the right minds so the vision can still be built. Great entrepreneurs do this instinctively. They are not experts in everything, but they are experts in identifying, organizing, and leveraging the knowledge of others. Hill encouraged people to take inventory of what they know and, more importantly, what they don't know. He believed that honest self-assessment was the starting point of acquiring wealth-generating knowledge. When you know your blind spots, you can fill them. When you pretend to know everything, you stagnate, and the wealth never arrives. So how does one go about acquiring specialized knowledge? Hill offered a clear framework. First, define your chief aim, your major purpose in life. Then determine what specific knowledge is essential to achieve it. Next, identify the best sources of that knowledge: books, courses, mentorship, experimentation. Finally, integrate and apply that knowledge in a way that produces value. Value, not vanity. Results, not theory. This process is not passive. It requires initiative. Hill warned that too many people wait for knowledge to be given to them, handed out like a diploma. But specialized knowledge isn't something you're awarded, it's something you hunt for. It lives in books, yes, but also in conversations, experiences, failures, late nights, and bold decisions. It's the knowledge you earn by putting your mind in motion and pursuing something bigger than comfort. Another important insight Hill shared was that specialized knowledge must be refreshed. What worked 5 years ago may no longer apply. Industries change, markets shift. The person who is committed to wealth doesn't rest on yesterday's understanding. They are constant students, always refining, upgrading, and evolving. You can hear it in their speech. They speak with precision and relevance. You can see it in their posture. They know they bring something unique to the table. You can feel it in their presence. They are not searching for approval. They are offering value. And this is key. People who possess true specialized knowledge don't beg for attention. They attract opportunities. Their expertise speaks louder than their self-promotion. In a noisy world full of fluff, depth stands out. Mastery magnetizes wealth because people always pay for clarity, confidence, and results. It's important to understand that acquiring specialized knowledge is not about becoming a know-it-all. It's about becoming so good at one thing that people trust you, hire you, follow you, or partner with you. The modern world doesn't need more generalists. It needs focused experts, people who go deep, not wide, people who study the patterns others miss, people who know how to connect information and turn it into transformation. Hill also warned that simply possessing knowledge was not enough. It must be organized, actionable, and directed toward a definite end. That's why many highly educated people remain poor. They accumulate facts with no focus. They teach theories they've never applied. Their minds are full, but their execution is weak. In contrast, many wealthy people don't have traditional education, but they have developed highly specialized knowledge through practice, risk-taking, and application. And in Hill's system, that's what counts. He encouraged every aspiring person of wealth to view their mind as a toolbox. Every new piece of specialized knowledge is a new tool sharpened, tested, and ready for use. The more focused the tool, the more powerful it becomes. A scalpel, for instance, does one thing, but it does it with such precision that it can save a life. Specialized knowledge is your scalpel. Learn to wield it. To build real wealth, you must stop scattering your energy and start cultivating depth. Pick your field, choose your target, commit to becoming dangerously competent in one area. Not average, not informed, excellent, reliable, valuable. That level of precision does not go unnoticed. The marketplace rewards it. The world is desperate for it. And when you bring it, when your knowledge becomes a lever for change, you will never have to chase money again. You will become the kind of person Hill described, the individual who organizes their mind around one core mission, acquires the exact knowledge to support it, and applies that knowledge with boldness, creativity, and relentless focus. Because in the end, money doesn't follow information, it follows applied intelligence. It flows to those who know what they're doing and do it with clarity, courage, and conviction. Part 6, Imagination, Your Wealth Building Workshop. There is a quiet force inside every human being, a force that builds cities, launches empires, transforms pain into power, and ideas into income. That force is imagination. And to Napoleon Hill, it wasn't just a creative bonus or a romantic concept. Imagination, he insisted, is the workshop of the mind, the space where all plans are born, where invisible thought takes shape before it ever becomes wealth. Hill saw imagination not as fantasy, but as the blueprint of the future. Every fortune ever built began with someone seeing in their mind what others couldn't see in reality. Before the business, the product, the strategy, or the wealth, there was a picture, a vision, a desire made real through mental rehearsal. The imagination is literally the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by man. Napoleon Hill, he understood that money doesn't begin with effort. It begins with a clear inner picture of what you want. That picture is created and refined through imagination. And the clearer it becomes, the more your mind consciously and subconsciously organizes itself to bring that image into being. Imagination, then, is not play, it is preparation. It is a serious tool for serious people who intend to build something remarkable in the world. Hill defined two types of imagination: synthetic and creative. Synthetic imagination is the ability to rearrange old ideas, concepts, and plans into new combinations. This is the kind most people use daily, repurposing what already exists into something slightly better. Creative imagination, however, it is what he considered the higher faculty. It's the ability to receive flashes of insight, intuition, and new ideas seemingly out of nowhere. Hill believed this creative flow came from what he called infinite intelligence, what modern thinkers might call the subconscious, source, or even God. Both types of imagination are essential in building wealth. The first allows you to take what's proven and organize it in a profitable way. The second allows you to innovate, disrupt, and bring something into existence that no one else has ever done before. The great fortunes of history were built by people who used both. They studied what worked, but they also listened to the whispers of imagination and dared to follow them even when others didn't understand. To use imagination effectively, you must first learn to value it. In a world that overemphasizes logic, efficiency, and certainty, imagination often gets dismissed as unproductive or childish. But Hill argued the opposite. He said imagination is what gives power to desire and direction to thought. Without imagination, your goals become mechanical. Without imagination, your plans become rigid. And without imagination, your wealth remains limited by the past. In contrast, when you develop your imagination, you unlock a deeper layer of intelligence, one that sees connections, possibilities, and futures that others miss. You stop operating purely from memory and start operating from vision. And vision is magnetic. Think about the last time you were truly inspired. That moment didn't come from logic. It came from a vision, maybe of the life you wanted, the impact you could make, or the freedom you craved. That vision came from your imagination, and if you can see it vividly and consistently, you can start aligning your actions, habits, and strategies to match that internal picture. Hill taught that the imagination becomes most powerful when it is fueled by a definite purpose and emotion. It's not enough to randomly daydream. You must deliberately visualize your goals as if they're already achieved and feel the emotional payoff of that success. This combination of mental imagery and strong emotion creates a vibrational imprint in your subconscious mind, which in turn begins to influence your decisions, perceptions, and behavior. This is where imagination becomes more than visualization. It becomes mental creation. You are rehearsing your success before it shows up. You are installing a new self-image, one that is already wealthy, confident, and powerful. And that self-image begins to alter your vibration, attracting people, ideas, and opportunities that match the new frequency you're transmitting. It's not magic, it's mental alignment. You are building your future on the inside before it appears on the outside. Hill emphasized that the most successful people dedicate time every day to use their imagination constructively. That may mean visualizing their goals in the morning, mentally rehearsing critical meetings, seeing themselves succeeding in new ventures, or simply sitting in silence and receiving insights. These individuals treat imagination as a discipline, not an escape. They understand that every breakthrough begins with a picture, and that picture, held long enough and with enough clarity, becomes a plan. And the plan, fueled by faith and action, becomes a reality. This is the cycle Hill described: desire, faith, imagination, planning, action, wealth. And imagination sits right in the middle. Without it, there is no compelling future to chase, no strategy to develop, no energy behind execution. Imagination is the bridge between longing and achievement. But here's the challenge in most people. Imagination is rusty. Years of criticism, conformity, and fear have silenced it. We were taught to be realistic, to stay within the lines, to follow the path already paved. Hill urged us to unlearn this mindset. He reminded us that nothing big is ever created by those who cling to what is already known. It is the dreamers, the visionaries, the bold imaginations that build legacies. To reclaim your imagination, you must give yourself permission to dream again. And not just dream, but to imagine freely, vividly, and frequently. See the details, smell the air, hear the sounds. Walk around inside your vision until it feels like home. Because once your subconscious believes it's real, it begins to construct the external pieces to match. Imagination also makes you resilient. When things go wrong, the person who lives only in reality gets discouraged. But the person with a strong imaginative faculty stays connected to their mental picture of success. They continue moving forward because they've already seen the ending. Their belief is not based on what they see, it's based on what they've imagined. Hill also pointed out that many people use imagination destructively without realizing it. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They play out scenes of failure in their minds. They picture embarrassment, rejection, and loss. And because the subconscious doesn't distinguish between negative and positive imagery, it simply responds to repetition and emotion. These negative visualizations become self-fulfilling. What you rehearse, you reinforce. What you reinforce, you become. So Hill's advice is simple, but revolutionary. Use your imagination to program your mind for success, not failure. Choose your mental pictures carefully. Let them be expansive, exciting, and empowering. Let them become so real that your body reacts with certainty and drive. And most importantly, act on what you see. Imagination is not a substitute for work, it is the architect of inspired action. Hill reminded us that imagination without action is just a daydream. But imagination, combined with desire, faith, and a plan that is a recipe for wealth. To build wealth, then, is to live in two worlds at once. In the world of what is, in the world of what could be. You look at your current reality, not with despair, but with creative defiance, knowing that it is only the raw material for what your imagination is about to create. And when others doubt, when the facts don't support your vision, when the world tries to shrink your thinking, you return to the workshop. You go inside your mind, you see it again, you believe it again, you build it again. Because wealth is first created in the invisible before it ever shows up in the bank. Part 7, Organized Planning. Turning energy into execution. All the desire in the world, all the faith, imagination, and affirmations, none of it matters unless it leads to organized, intelligent, and immediate action. That was one of the most sobering truths Napoleon Hill drilled into the minds of every reader. He never said that wealth comes from wishing. He said that wealth is the result of clarity of thought combined with definiteness of plan. You don't stumble your way into fortune. You construct it, step by step, day by day, guided by a framework that brings your invisible vision into visible form. Hill wrote, "Tunakanam, you have learned that everything man creates or acquires begins in the form of desire. That desire is taken on the first lap of its journey, from the abstract to the concrete, into the workshop of the imagination, where plans for its transition are created and organized. Planning, then, is the bridge between the mental and the physical. It is the tool you use to transfer energy into structure. And without structure, even the most powerful thoughts eventually dissipate. Like steam without a turbine, that energy has no direction, no output. But once you harness your ideas into organized, intelligent planning, you gain control over your results. You stop reacting to life, and you begin designing it. Organized planning is not simply having a to-do list. It's a strategic process that aligns your goals, your skills, your time, and your resources into a repeatable rhythm of progress. It demands focus, it demands clarity, and most importantly, it demands decisive movement. Hill understood that many people fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack execution structure. They drift between ideas, start too many things at once, or wait endlessly for perfect conditions. In contrast, the person who succeeds does not wait for clarity. They create it through action. And that action is not random. It is premeditated, intentional, and structured toward a definite end. That's why Hill insisted that once a person has a clear desire and faith in their ability to achieve it, they must immediately translate that desire into action, even if the plan is incomplete. In his words, temporary defeat should merely mean one thing: the certain knowledge that there is something wrong with your plan, not your goal, not your value, just the plan. This means that the wealth-building process is inherently iterative. You plan, act, adjust, and repeat. You don't need the perfect plan to start, but you do need a plan that gets you moving, and the humility to adjust it as feedback comes in. Organized planning is not rigid. It is alive. It breathes with your vision. It evolves with your experience. And the faster you can move from thought to action to revision, the faster you build momentum. So what makes a plan organized in Hill's view? First, it must be definite. That means specific steps, deadlines, targets, and responsibilities. A vague plan is not a plan, it's a wish list. Hill taught that successful individuals create daily, weekly, and monthly objectives, all in alignment with their chief aim. These objectives are not just goals, they are marching orders, and they must be followed with discipline and urgency. Second, a plan must be practical. It should be rooted in your current reality, your skills, resources, and network while still stretching your limits. Hill emphasized that planning must account for what you're willing to give in return for the wealth you seek. That includes service, value, learning, and time. You must be honest about your inputs if you expect to receive abundant outputs. Third, a plan must be supported by others. Hill continually returned to the idea that no one builds significant wealth alone. Your plan should include people mentors, collaborators, team members, or advisors who bring strengths you lack. Even if you're working solo, your plan should identify who can help, how they can help, and when to involve them. This is how you multiply energy through alignment and delegation. But here's what separates organized planning from mere goal-setting urgency. Hill believed that speed matters, not recklessness, but momentum. He taught that you must begin immediately upon forming your plan, not next week, not after research, not when you feel ready. Start now with what you have and allow progress to refine your path. The act of moving forward reveals what needs to be adjusted. Waiting only kills the fire. There is a direct energetic relationship between decisiveness and opportunity. Hill observed that successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly, while failures do the opposite. Why? Because wealth responds to certainty. It moves toward those who act like their goals are real because that conviction becomes a magnet. So when you have a desire and you've written your goal and you've begun programming it through auto-suggestion and imagination, your next step is to translate that into a detailed plan of action. This plan should answer the following questions with ruthless honesty. What exactly do I want to accomplish? By when? What steps are required? What skills or knowledge do I need to acquire? What people or partnerships will help me? What obstacles might arise, and how will I handle them? What will I do every single day to move forward? This process forces clarity, and clarity is power. You don't need to know all 100 steps. You just need to know the next 3. And once you take those, the next 3 will become visible. Action brings awareness. Hill didn't promise that every plan would work on the first try. In fact, he said most don't, but he also reminded us that failure is simply feedback. It's data. It's the universe saying, this route won't get you there. Try another. And when you're operating from an organized plan, you don't crumble at failure. You adjust. You revisit. You reorient. Because your energy is not tied to perfection, it's tied to progress. And progress, when tracked, creates momentum. That's another hidden benefit of organized planning. It builds belief. When you see yourself completing steps, checking off objectives, and moving forward consistently, your confidence increases. You no longer wonder if success is possible. You begin to expect it. Over time, the structure of your plan becomes part of your identity. You're no longer the person who hopes to get rich. You're the person who knows exactly what they're building, how they're building it, and when it's going to arrive. That internal certainty projects externally, and others begin to feel it. They trust you more. They follow your lead. They invest in your vision. This is the energetic transfer Napoleon Hill hinted at. Planning is not cold or mechanical. It's magnetic when done with intensity and conviction. People are drawn to those who know where they're going. Money is drawn to those who act like they belong there. So if you're serious about attracting wealth, understand this. You are not simply hoping for success. You are engineering it. And your most powerful tool in that process is a plan that lives, breathes, adapts, and moves. A plan that grounds your energy and converts your imagination into execution. A plan that transforms invisible faith into visible results. Because in the end, energy without structure is noise, but energy inside a plan. That's the blueprint for everything you desire. Part 8, Decision and Persistence. The magnetic force of action. At a certain point on the path to wealth, strategy is no longer the problem. Neither is lack of information, nor even lack of opportunity. The real gap, the silent killer of more dreams than failure ever could, is indecision. That quiet hesitation between knowing what must be done and actually doing it. Napoleon Hill made this painfully clear: indecision is the gateway to fear. And fear is the lowest form of energy a wealth builder can carry. In Hill's research, particularly his interviews with hundreds of successful men and women, including industrial giants like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Andrew Carnegie, he discovered a pattern so consistent it was almost mechanical. Successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly, if at all. In contrast, those who struggle, drift, or stagnate tend to delay decisions, second-guess themselves, and constantly seek outside validation. Their energy is scattered, their belief system is weak, and so is their bank account. Decision, Hill insisted, is the active form of faith. It's where all your internal work, your desire, your belief, your imagination, your planning finally gets funneled into a single, forward-moving commitment. To decide is to cut off other options. It is to say, this is what I'm doing. This is who I'm becoming. This is the direction I choose. And when you bring that kind of clarity into the world begins to rearrange itself around your certainty. But most people live in a loop of hesitation. They wait for more proof, more research, more opinions. They spend years thinking about making a move they know they needed to make years ago. Hill didn't have time for this. He believed that the universe rewards bold, fast action and punishes hesitation not out of cruelty, but because hesitation lowers your frequency. It creates internal doubt, and that doubt leaks into your energy, your communication, your posture, and your results. There is a magnetism in decisiveness. When you move forward with certainty, even if your plan is imperfect, you emit power. You tell the universe, "I'm ready." And the universe, Hill believed, responds in kind. Doors open, people appear, events line up. Not because of luck, but because your vibration has changed from passive waiting to active creation. But decision is only half of the equation. The other half is persistence, the relentless continuation of action in the face of obstacles, fatigue, or temporary defeat. Hill dedicated an entire chapter of Think and Grow Rich to this concept, warning that lack of persistence is the most common cause of failure. He viewed persistence as a test, a way the universe weeds out the weak from the worthy. Not the worthy in terms of value as a human being, but the worthy in terms of who is willing to stay in the game long enough for success to find them. You see, once you make a decision, life will challenge it. You'll face delays, mistakes, setbacks, criticism, and even betrayal. That's not a punishment, it's a filter. The universe wants to know, how bad do you want this? Will you keep going when it's no longer fun, glamorous, or immediately rewarding? Will you continue to act as if your success is inevitable, even when all evidence suggests otherwise? Hill believed that persistence is the spiritual armor of the wealth builder. It's what protects your vision when reality doesn't cooperate. It's what keeps your energy high when your results are low. And it's what makes you unshakable, because once persistence is in place, no failure is final. You either win or you learn, and either way, you move forward. Persistence is also the glue that holds your decision in place. Anyone can decide something once, but to re-decide every morning, to wake up and say, "Yes, this is still my path," even when you're tired, broke, or discouraged, that is power. That is the muscle that turns plans into profit. So how do you develop decision and persistence as daily traits, not just emotional reactions? Hill provided a system, and it's as practical as it is powerful. First, you must eliminate external noise. Indecisive people are almost always overexposed to opinions. They seek approval from people who don't share their values, vision, or ambition. This creates mental fog. To decide clearly, you must reduce input, listen selectively, guard your mind like it's your last dollar. Second, you must commit to definiteness of purpose. You cannot persist in something that is vague. Your goal must be emotionally charged, specifically defined, and deeply personal. If you don't know why you're doing something, you will not have the strength to keep doing it when it gets hard. But if your why is strong enough, you can endure almost any how. Third, Hill emphasized the power of habitual action. You don't rely on motivation. You rely on systems. You build routines that carry you when willpower fails. You develop a rhythm of movement so consistent that persistence becomes your default mode. And the longer you do this, the more you start to feel internally aligned with your goal. You don't just want it, you expect it. Fourth, Hill encouraged surrounding yourself with people who embody decision and persistence. Energy is contagious. If you're around people who second-guess everything, quit easily, or avoid commitment, you will absorb that pattern. But if you surround yourself with those who move, who act, who press forward even when uncertain, your mind begins to mirror that behavior. Finally, Hill suggested keeping a record of victories. No matter how small, each win reinforces belief. Each win reminds your mind, this is working. Persistence becomes easier when you can look back and see proof that your actions matter. This creates upward momentum, a psychological snowball that turns consistent effort into exponential returns. It's also worth noting that decision and persistence are not just habits, they are energetic signals. They tell your subconscious, we're serious now. They tell the universe, we've moved from thought to command, and they tell the world around you, this is someone to trust, to follow, to support. The difference between someone who is dabbling and someone who is dominating is rarely intelligence. It's rarely access to information. The difference is usually just this: one person decides and doesn't stop. The other person waits and gives up. So if you are serious about wealth, if you believe that money truly is energy, and that energy responds to your internal state, then nothing is more important than this. Make a decision and persist until it pays off. Don't overthink. Don't overplan. Don't wait for validation. Decide, act, adjust, repeat. That rhythm decision, action, persistence is the vibration that attracts wealth at every level. It's not glamorous. It's not always comfortable, but it is magnetic. And once you lock into it, you no longer chase money. You become someone whom money can't help but find. Because wealth doesn't go to the one who wants it. It goes to the one who commits to it and never lets go. Part 9. The mastermind tapping into collective energy. If there is one principle in Napoleon Hill's philosophy that seems almost mystical, yet is entirely practical, it is the concept of the mastermind. While many talk about success as an individual journey, Hill was bold enough to say, no individual may have great power without availing themselves of the mastermind. To Hill, the mastermind was not just a team. It was not a brainstorming session. It wasn't a club or a committee. It was a spiritual, mental, and energetic alliance between two or more minds who coordinate in harmony to achieve a definite purpose. And when this harmony is real, it doesn't just add power, it multiplies it. The idea is both psychological and vibrational. Hill believed that when two minds come together in absolute alignment, sharing vision, values, and intention, a third mind is formed. An invisible intelligence that transcends either individual alone. This third mind, he claimed, is the true source of power behind all great achievements, from financial empires to political revolutions to scientific breakthroughs. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but you can feel it. And when it's active, something begins to accelerate. This collective energy, as modern psychology might call it, operates on the principle of resonance. When two people with strong, focused energy link up, their thought frequencies begin to synchronize, ideas flow faster, solutions arrive with ease, intuition sharpens, motivation multiplies. It's as if life itself responds more quickly, because the vibration of clarity and certainty is now twice as strong. Hill's point wasn't just that it's good to have people around you. His point was, if you want to attract serious wealth, you must build energetic alliances with people whose minds and spirits are aligned with your goal. You must eliminate dead weight, complainers, and small thinkers from your circle, because their presence literally disrupts the frequency that wealth responds to. Let's be clear, Hill wasn't saying you need a big network. He wasn't telling you to collect followers or hand out business cards at every event. What he taught was far more intentional. You need a small, select group of individuals who contribute energy, ideas, and belief to your chief aim, and with whom you do the same. That's the mastermind. This principle has massive implications, especially in a culture that often glorifies the lone genius. Hill's research proved that no one builds lasting wealth alone. Even the great inventors and industrialists of his day, from Edison to Ford to Rockefeller, all had collaborators, confidants, and energetic counterparts. They may have stood in the spotlight, but they did not stand alone. So what does a mastermind look like in practice? It begins with shared purpose. Everyone involved must be clear on what the goal is and committed to it. This creates alignment. Then, there must be trust, a mutual respect that allows for open communication, vulnerability, and support. Ego cannot dominate here. The energy of the mastermind depends on humility, contribution, and energetic equality. Everyone adds value. No one drains it. Meetings or interactions should be regular, focused, and emotionally engaged. This isn't about gossip or surface-level updates. It's about deep, strategic, and inspired collaboration. The goal is not just to solve problems, but to create a container where inspiration can flourish, where ideas can be accelerated, where setbacks are neutralized and momentum is maintained. One of Hill's most important insights was that the mastermind doesn't just offer ideas, it offers emotional reinforcement. When your own belief falters, the group's belief can carry you. When your vision gets blurry, someone else can help you see clearly again. And when energy dips, the collective field of enthusiasm can reignite your persistence. This emotional transfer is just as important as the intellectual exchange. In fact, Hill suggested that the emotional harmony of the group was more important than the brilliance of its members. He warned that even one pessimistic, cynical, or jealous person could poison the frequency of the mastermind and neutralize its power. This is why choosing who you invite into your energetic field is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make on your path to wealth. You must be ruthless about who you allow to influence your mindset, and you must also take responsibility for the energy you bring into others' lives. A mastermind is a living organism. It grows, it evolves, it requires care and consistency. But when nurtured, it becomes the amplifier of your vision. It's the echo chamber of belief, the amplifier of action, and the collective momentum that pushes you further than you could ever go alone. There's also another layer to Hill's definition, one that often goes unnoticed. The mastermind doesn't always have to be made up of living people. He spoke about creating an invisible council in your imagination, composed of thinkers, leaders, and historical figures you admire. In his private visualization sessions, he would imagine sitting at a round table with Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Edison, and other great minds, and mentally ask them questions. Now, whether you believe in literal communication or not isn't the point. The point is, Hill understood that the mind is influenced not only by physical interactions, but by mental and emotional connection to archetypes of greatness. When you consistently imagine yourself surrounded by powerful, focused, wealthy people, even if only in your own inner world, you begin to raise your internal standard to match theirs. You start making decisions the way they would. You start thinking long-term. You start acting as if you belong at that table. And over time, that belief becomes embedded. Your energy shifts. And soon, the real-world version of that invisible council begins to show up. That is the vibrational power of alignment. The mastermind then becomes a multiplier of all your other faculties. It makes your faith stronger, your desire deeper, your imagination more vivid, your plans more intelligent, your actions more consistent, and your persistence more resilient. When you know others are counting on you, when your energy feeds theirs, and theirs feeds yours, you stop quitting early. You stop hesitating. You start rising together. This is not theory. This is ancient truth. Every tribe, every movement, every revolution began with a mastermind. Two or more minds aligned in purpose, setting off a chain reaction that changed everything. Whether you're trying to build wealth, shift your career, grow a business, or manifest an entirely new life, your mastermind is not optional. It is essential. You need people who stretch you, who see your blind spots, who remind you of your greatness when you forget. You need conversations that spark clarity, not confusion. You need energetic matches who push you into your higher self. And if you don't yet have that in your life, create it. Start small. One person, one weekly call, one exchange of belief. Over time, that seed becomes a field. That field becomes a force, and that force becomes your unfair advantage. Wealth is not built in isolation. It is built in alignment with people, with purpose, and with power. The mastermind is how you tap into that power, not by force, but by frequency. Because money is energy, and when you raise your energy with the right people, wealth begins to chase you. Part 10, the sixth sense aligning with the infinite source. There's a moment in every great pursuit of wealth when the builder, the dreamer, the creator crosses a line that logic alone cannot explain. It's the moment when ideas seem to arrive fully formed, when hunches turn into breakthroughs, when decisions made in seconds yield results that years of research couldn't produce. It's the space where effort meets intuition, where preparation collides with inspiration, and where, as Napoleon Hill described, the sixth sense takes over. To Hill, the sixth sense was the final step, the crown jewel of his entire philosophy. Not because it was more important than desire, faith, imagination, planning, or persistence, but because it was the integration of all those things. The sixth sense, he wrote, is that portion of the subconscious mind which has been referred to as the creative imagination. It is that through which hunches and inspirations are received. But this wasn't mere fantasy. Hill wasn't talking about some supernatural gift only available to the chosen few. He was describing a heightened state of awareness, a deep mental alignment where the subconscious mind, the creative faculties, and what he called infinite intelligence begin to interact in a seamless unity. In this state, wealth building becomes less about force and more about flow. The sixth sense, then, is not something you find. It is something you develop. It is the result of disciplined inner work weeks, months, years spent programming the subconscious, developing clarity of desire, strengthening belief, organizing thought, and acting with purpose. When all of that energy becomes harmonized, something begins to unlock. You begin to feel guided. You begin to know what to do without having to logically explain why. You start to trust your own inner signals, and those signals prove themselves accurate again and again. This is the sixth sense in action. It is the culmination of vibrational wealth consciousness. The moment your inner world becomes so aligned that you can sense what to say, where to go, what move to make, even if the rational mind hasn't caught up yet. Hill didn't pretend to fully understand the mechanics of this faculty, but he made one thing clear: all the great minds he studied, without exception, relied on it. They trusted their hunches, they acted on their inner guidance, they allowed instinct, intuition, and unseen forces to play a role in their success, and not as an afterthought, but as a strategic advantage. This runs counter to what many believe about success. In a world obsessed with logic, control, and predictability, the idea of listening to something invisible feels reckless. But Hill challenged this thinking. He knew that logic has its limits, that spreadsheets don't spark revolutions, that no spreadsheet in history ever gave birth to a world-changing vision. At some point, greatness requires going beyond what is provable and acting on what is deeply, viscerally known. But there is a condition. The sixth sense does not activate in chaotic minds. It cannot be summoned by those who live in doubt, fear, or indecision. It requires purity of intention and mental clarity. It emerges in silence. It comes in moments of stillness, and it appears most often to those who have already done the hard work of preparation. That's why Hill placed this principle at the top of his pyramid. He knew you can't skip steps. You can't bypass self-mastery and expect divine downloads. The sixth sense is earned. It is cultivated through alignment with self, with purpose, and ultimately with what Hill called infinite intelligence. This concept of infinite intelligence is perhaps the most spiritual part of Hill's teachings. He saw it as the universal source of all ideas, energy, and creation. Some may call it God, others the universe. Some call it source, or the field, or the divine mind. The label is irrelevant. What matters is the connection. Hill believed that this infinite intelligence is always broadcasting, but most people are not tuned in. Their minds are too noisy, their emotions too chaotic, their beliefs too small. But when you begin to clean your mental lens, when you eliminate self-doubt, when you tune out fear, when you elevate your emotions to frequencies of gratitude, joy, and expectancy, you begin to hear more clearly. You become a receiver, and wealth begins to arrive not just through strategy, but through synchronicity. You're in the right place at the right time. You meet people you never expected. You get ideas at 3. Year 0, that turn into your next breakthrough. And when others ask how it happened, you can't explain it with logic, because it didn't come from logic. It came from alignment. That is the realm of the sixth sense. And for those who reach it, wealth becomes less about grinding and more about receiving. Less about force, more about finesse. Less about chasing and more about allowing. Of course, this doesn't mean you stop working. It doesn't mean you sit around waiting for miracles. On the contrary, Hill taught that the sixth sense only becomes active once decisive, persistent, organized action has been taken. It's not a substitute for effort. It's the enhancer of effort. It makes your actions smarter. It reduces wasted motion. It allows you to move at the speed of intuition, which is always faster than the speed of overthinking. When you're aligned with the sixth sense, you stop fighting the current. You start moving with the current. You trust the process because you are connected to the source of the process. And this connection brings peace even in chaos. It brings certainty even in uncertainty. It brings clarity even when the path ahead is foggy. And this inner clarity becomes your advantage in a world full of noise. While others are distracted, you're dialed in. While others are guessing, you're guided. While others need external proof, you're led by internal truth. That is what makes the sixth sense magnetic. It radiates trust. It projects calm. It anchors you in the reality you're building even when no one else can see it yet. This inner power is the highest frequency of wealth energy, because when you reach this level, money becomes a byproduct, not a target. It shows up in response to who you've become. It flows because you've tapped into the ultimate source of creation, and that source is infinite. In a world that celebrates hustle but neglects inner alignment, Napoleon Hill's message is both timeless and urgent. There is a higher intelligence waiting to guide you, but you must prepare your mind to hear it. So if you've built your desire, cultivated your faith, visualized your success, planned your path, persisted through resistance, made bold decisions, and surrounded yourself with a mastermind, now is the time to listen, to receive, to allow the final piece to click into place. Let the sixth sense guide your next step. Let intuition sharpen your awareness. Let energy lead where logic once stalled. Because when you are aligned, truly aligned, you stop chasing wealth. Wealth chases you. You've just unlocked the real blueprint behind wealth straight from the mind of Napoleon Hill, but knowledge alone won't change your life. Action will. So ask yourself, what are you going to do with this energy now? Like, comment, and share this with someone who's ready to change their frequency, and subscribe, because this journey is just beginning.